I have been using this Godox SK400 flash for the last over 2 years now. In my use, this flash has proved to be reliable and dependable. Every time I want a flash indoor, this flash has never failed me, and in my course of using this flash, a few things have become apparent. Those are the things I want us to focus on in this video. The first thing I have realized about this flash is that the SK400 II is an extremely powerful flash, and for my use in my tiny studio, it is not a flash that you can use at f2.8 aperture unless you are using a ND filter. f2.8 50mm on a crop sensor needs a huge studio space, which I do not have, so for that reason I actually don't use the f2.8, neither do I use the 50mm for portraits in the studio unless I am taking hand shots. But for the other form of photos, I actually use the kit lens, which is the 18-55, which I use at f8. And at f8, if I want to use the flash to light up the entire body of the subject, then I'll have to press it further back, and with my 120cm softbox, the light does not fall off as I would want it to be, and it ends up being somewhat hard. But because in portraits I need soft light, what I end up doing is I actually bring the flash closer to the subject, which takes care of the upper body of the subject, and I use the TT600 flash to take care of the lower body, and most importantly legs in case of a lady. And when I do that, I end up with soft light on the head or the upper body and bright shadows and properly exposed legs. That has been my workflow with this flash, but then there are other features that we need to talk about that also becomes apparent when you use this flash for some time, but for someone using it for the first time, they can be a little bit confusing. Let us begin with the built-in 2.4 GHz wireless receiver. If you use a Godox trigger like the X2T, which I use in my case, on the back of the flash, when you press and hold the GR/CH button together with the S1/S2 button for about 2 seconds, this will turn the built-in receiver on or off. When the receiver is enabled, you will see the antenna icon on the LCD display. But if the antenna icon is not available, then it means that the wireless receiver is turned off and your flash and the trigger will not be communicating. So before you think the flash is broken or something, make sure to confirm that you can actually see the wireless receiver icon turned on. The next hidden feature that we need to talk about involves the monitoring ramp. When you press M on this off button, it moves between off, prop mode and manual brightness mode. However, there's another function that is not immediately obvious, which you need to know about, which is with the monitoring ramp turned on, when you press and hold the M on this off button for about 3 seconds, this will change the way the monitoring ramp behave while the flash is firing. In the normal mode, the monitoring ramp remains illuminated continuously even when the flash exposure is happening. In this hidden mode, the monitoring ramp actually automatically will switch itself off the instant that the flash is firing and turn back on immediately, and you might even not notice it has happened. And what this does is it prevents contamination of your exposure from the light from the monitoring ramp, because the monitoring ramp in the SK400 II is actually very warm, while the flash is set to 5600 Kelvin. So if you combine the two sources of light, in cases where you are using a slower shutter speed, there might be contamination. So what you need to do is set your flash to fire, and while the flash is firing, the monitoring ramp goes off and on again. That is if you are using the monitoring ramp to expose your subject. But in my case, I actually don't use the monitoring ramp for my portraiture. I use another light that is set to 5600 Kelvin, and I only use the monitoring ramp as a decorative light in my videos. That warm look of the monitoring ramp of this SK400 II is actually a very nice decorative light. But if you decide to use the modeling ramp to expose your subject, then I would advise you use it in the prop mode. In prop mode, instead of manually adjusting the brightness every time you want to change the flash power or the power of the modeling ramp, prop mode links the brightness of the modeling ramp directly to the flash output. When you increase the flash power, the modeling ramp power is also increased. They both get brighter or darker together. If prop mode isn't what you need, the SK400 gives you small increments of the modeling ramp power in manual mode from 5% all the way to 100% in small increments of 5. This is helpful when you simply need enough light for composition and to help your camera focus and find the subject without unnecessarily making the entire setup so bright and warm, because the modeling ramp on this flash is actually very warm. Another feature that we need to talk about is the flash memory. Once you configure your setup with the flash power, the wireless channel that you are using, the group, the modeling ramp, the SK400 will remember all these settings. So when you set them up the first time, the flash will always remember these settings, and this is important because you don't want to be fiddling with the settings every now and then. The next time you turn on the flash, the SK400 will actually be where you left it, which will allow you to start shooting immediately instead of reconfiguring the flash for the same maybe studio setup, like in my case where I use it in the studio setup. The SK400 has a S2 slave mode. The S2 slave mode, or also known as the second cutting slave mode, actually ignores the pre-flash from a TTL flash and only fires when the real flash is firing. In that case, the SK400 can be combined with a TTL flash, like in my case where I use the SK400 to brighten the upper body of the subject and another flash to brighten the legs of the subject. In that case, I can use the TTL flash to trigger the SK400 or even use them together. The SK400 itself is not a TTL flash, but having the S2 slave mode means I can actually use it together with a TTL flash. Another feature we need to talk about is damping of the excess power. For example, when you reduce the flash power, for example from 1/1 full power all the way to 1/16th power, which is the minimum power on this flash, the capacitor on the SK400 will contain the power from the higher setting of 1/1, which means if you immediately use it as it is, then the 1/16 flash power setting will actually be brighter because the capacitor had excess power. So what you need to do is dump that power by pressing the flash button, and when you do that, now your 1/16 is actually a true 1/16, and the flash will tell you when you need to dump power, because once you reduce the flash power, you will see the flash blinking, which means you need to dump the excess power. And finally, if you are planning to use a trigger like the X2T, X Pro 2, the SK400 becomes more enjoyable to use, because instead of walking back and forth to the flash every time you want to make maybe some adjustment, you can make those adjustments on the flash trigger itself. Things like turning the modeling ramp on and off, you can do that with the trigger. You can also control multiple groups from the trigger itself, and although the SK400 does not support the TTL setting or the high-speed sync setting, the convenience of remote manual control dramatically improves your workflow so that you don't keep coming back and forth. The Godox SK400 II may be marketed as an entry-level studio flash, but these hidden features, they reveal just how thoughtful it was made, and once you understand what those buttons are really capable of, you spend less time fighting your gear and more time creating beautiful photos like the ones I have shown you. So have a nice time, and let us meet in the next video. Enjoy your time.
JM Photography KC Imagement.